nation, and a million faces formed together, made for elevation. And my soldier won't surrender faith. It's like a fire that never burns to embers. The voice of the unheard. Love is the answer.
I gotta speak it, believe it, that's how I feel inside.
I can't sit here quiet.
You can take my heart, you can take my breath. When you pry it from my cold dead chest.
This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. Can you hear me? Are you listening? Sleeping in the shadows could be making history. Through the fire, on the water, used to be a slave, but now you are a conqueror.
They can take my heart, they can take my breath. When they pry it from my cold dead chest.
This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. We're rising up, rising up, we're rising up, rising up, we're rising up. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us.
And welcome everybody to another episode of Straight Talk with Joe Vollano. I am, of course, your host, your guiding light, Joe Vollano. I'm going to throw this up there. Hopefully, there it goes. Of course, I am Joe Vollano. Most of you know who I am. If you are new to the show, listen, this show only works best when you guys are involved. We look to have good conversation and make you be more informed. What's going on in your town, state, and your country. And of course, if you want to be part of the show, because like I said, that when you are part of the show, it always makes the show better, and it lets other people know that it's okay to call in and voice your opinion. So if you want to call in, 203-679-9610. And of course, the email is always straighttalkjv@gmail.com. So again, and if you're on, again, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, and LinkedIn, you can always join the message board. I see it is lively already this evening. Everybody is, all the normals are here. So I welcome you all, and we are going to dive right in. We have a lot to talk about tonight. So let me put that back up here because, you know, SEC regulations. We have to put the disclaimer down there on the bottom left-hand corner. So if you see it there, obviously, it's there for a reason. So we're going to start off tonight. Obviously, the budget is still a huge topic of controversy going on right now. Of course, assessment appeals just ended. So we had our last day of assessment appeal hearings on Saturday. That wrapped up literally 2 weeks of assessment appeals from the citizens of the great city of Meriden. So, you know, again, I don't know if he's on yet. He usually does join us. Councilman Ray Orlett, I will give full credit. He He was true to his word, and he did sit in on some of the assessment appeals. And I thank him for coming. Hopefully, it was worth his time to see what is really going on. Because like I said last week, this is the perfect storm. What we got going on right here. This is literally the perfect storm. And again, this isn't going to be immediately. We have people with their assessments going up anywhere from 50 to 276%. So it's really going to lead to some crazy times. It's going to lead to some hard times, especially for those on a fixed income. Listen, we hear it. We heard it every single night. They can't afford it. And if 25% is the break even, we have a lot of people in this city that are going to be bankrupt and are not going to be able to pay the taxes on their house. And like I said, it won't happen immediately, but over the next 2 or 3 years of not paying taxes, if they can't afford it, before the city liens their property, before the city goes over to take their property, before foreclosures start, for these landlords that came in. Obviously, everybody knows the average 2-family or multifamily house went up 40%. On average, 40%. There are a lot of them went up a lot higher than that. And they're asking, hey, what am I supposed to do? Jack up rent? Yeah, you're going to have to, I guess. I mean, I'm not the landlord. I don't know the business. But it is what it is, right? I mean, so if their taxes go up, they're not going to eat it. They're going to have to pass it along. That's going to put a lot of these people that are struggling just to get by. In fact, we talked about it 2 or 3 weeks ago. The article that came out in the paper about people who have been living in these apartments for years are now being thrown out because these landlords, they know they can't afford them. So now they have to go get new people in that could afford those rents. So I think in some ways I hate to say it, in some ways these are helping the liberals on the city council here in the city of Meriden who want more affordable housing. Because they're simply going to say, well, people just can't afford it anymore. And literally they're going to put private landlords out of business. You know, we always heard that the famous, Rahm Emanuel always, said, had the famous quote that has been thrown around all over the place now: never let a crisis go to waste. Never let a crisis go to waste. They're not going to let this one go to waste. They're going to be pushing for more and more public housing, more and more affordable housing, and they're going to literally put private landlords out of business. And I don't think they'll be they'll be that sad about it. I don't think they're going to mind for a second. You look at what's going on. And the people that are buying these, and the people that are buying all these properties now, they're going into foreclosures or people are trying to sell them quickly, is investment groups. They're investment groups. So, listen, we're in for a real bumpy ride over the next couple of years. We are in for a bumpy ride. And everybody needs to be paying attention to what's going on, because we haven't even touched on the nonprofits yet. The nonprofits, we haven't even talked about them yet, because right now there's litigation from nonprofits trying to get their tax-exempt status back. And I've said it here plenty of times, this city and the council should be preparing for that. Our finance department should be preparing for that. That money that is anticipated to come from the nonprofits. So if you were a nonprofit last year and you weren't paying taxes, if you're now being taxed this year, that money should go into the rainy day fund. At least then we can collect interest on it. And it's not counted into the grand list until one of two things happen. One, the courts settle the argument. Or two, the state legislators settle this argument once and for all. because you have some towns that are taxing them, some that aren't. And there's a mixed message coming from both sides. Which one is right? We can't afford, the taxpayers of the city cannot afford to be wrong on this issue. So it's all fine and dandy if this is what they want to do. If they want to tax nonprofits in the meantime, then that money should go into the rainy day fund where it will collect interest at least. And then if the courts rule against us, or if the state legislators rule against what we're doing, then that money can easily be refunded without it hurting the taxpayers of the city of Meriden. Because every single city councilor should be looking for the best interest of the taxpayers of the city of Meriden. And if they're not worried about this issue and this issue hurting the taxpayer, they are living in a fantasy world. If they think they're going to use this money as just part of the grand list to fund all their wish list items, they are putting this city at risk, at financial risk. If they want to go down this route, there are ways to do it without putting a high risk on the taxpayer. Because remember, if they spend this money and then again, the courts or the legislators rule against us and they have to give it all back, guess who has to pick up that bill? You do. The taxpayer does. The taxpayer has to pay for it. So let's not put ourselves in that position. Let's put ourselves in good financial position that we are okay on either side. Hell, if it goes in our favor, you have an extra couple $100,000 sitting there, probably even more, maybe close to $1 million sitting there in the coffers in the rainy day fund. That's not a bad thing. You know, our unassigned liabilities for last year, I believe, was what, 10%, maybe 11%. They really would like us at 15%. So if this goes in our favor, great. That money's sitting there in the rainy day fund. It's good for. That just helps us. So again, risk versus reward here. I understand where the city's coming from. I understood it last year. Me and the assessor had this long conversation about it. I'm all for if this is the route they want to go because they think this is the best route for the city of Meriden. I'm fine with that. I'm not arguing the point because precedent has been set by other towns that are doing it. But we also need to make sure we're protecting our side. Make sure we're protecting the financial interest of the city of Meriden and the taxpayers who have to foot the bill. God forbid this thing goes sideways. So I'm asking you counselors out there, where are you on this issue? Because I haven't heard anything. Only one, and again, when me and Mike Rohde are on the same page and asking the same question, I know there's a serious problem here. Because Mike Rohde was the only one that asked the question that I know of about what are we doing with the nonprofits. So that is a question that needs to be answered. And trying to get an answer out of the Department of Finance, trying to get a department out of the assessors, trying to get an answer out of anybody in City Hall seems to be a very tough task. I don't know why, but it is. Each and every one of you out there tonight need to be worried about this one issue. Because this one issue can cause a lot of problems. And granted, I mean, we've been talking about the budget for a while now. And I still think at the end of the day, it is going to be up to the mayor. Because I don't see the liberals on the council looking to save the taxpayers any amount of money. In fact, if anything, I'm expecting that mill rate to go up to about 34, 35. That's going to be my prediction. But it's going to be up to the mayor. And I think the mayor is. I think, like I said this last week, the mayor will step up. I truly, honestly believe he will step up. And I think he will use that veto pen. But we'll find out. We'll find out soon enough because this budget does need to be voted on by the 15th of May. And then obviously once it's voted on, then the mayor has, I believe, 10 days to set his vetoes. And then he'll have the opportunity to, and then the council will have an opportunity to either just accept his vetoes or sit there and fight him, which I don't think they're going to fight him this year because I don't think they had the votes this year. I don't think they had the votes at all this year to sit there and fight whatever vetoes that the mayor decides to put there. Because I don't believe that Republicans and we the people are going to be advocating for any of that stuff to be brought back. And I think that they're going to have at least Fontanella, if not Fontanella and Blake, I think on their side. So I think this leaves Republicans Republican and we the people in a very good position going into negotiations for this. Because the Democrats have to be nervous that, listen, not everything's going to pass. So now the question is, do they just throw as much stuff into it as they possibly can and just hope for the best? It will be interesting to see. So remember, so then the next meeting is next Tuesday. That'll be the 2nd. So make sure you're there. So it starts at 6:30 at City Hall. So that'll be the first. Because then that doesn't work. Because if Ray, maybe you could help me out with this. If it has to be set by the 15th. I'm thinking it's going to have to be the 16th because the 15th falls on a Sunday. So the 16th would be the vote for the final approval of the city budget. And then the mayor would have until the 26th to set up his, to send his vetoes. And I got to imagine the 30th or 31st would be a special meeting of the city council to try to overturn them. If me looking at the calendar is correct, I imagine that's what it's going to be. So, we'll wait to see what happens here. I'm hoping for the best. I think that the Republicans, we the people, and I think the mayor will do the right thing. I think the taxpayers are gonna owe them one for this one. Even though the taxpayers, unfortunately, the voters are the ones that put us in this position. Because remember, elections have consequences. And this is one of them. Now, the good thing is the voters did vote in Ray. So he did give us the 4th. And I'm glad that at least we have a couple of Democrats that are looking out for the taxpayers, and they're going to help us out. So we'll keep you up to date on that next week. Like I said, that'll be, so our next day here together will be on the 31st, I believe. No, we'll be on the 1st. So I'll see you guys on May 1st, and then we'll talk about it, and we'll read into the 2nd. But we'll see what happens. Like I said, assessment appeals is now over. We will meet once again this Tuesday or Wednesday. We'll meet and we'll go through. We'll either approve or deny some of the applications that were put in. We'll see what happens there. But you guys should, if you did have an assessment appeal, you should have a letter in the mail first or second week of May with the decision that was made. And then you have two options. One, you could accept the ruling from the Board of Appeals, or you could take it to court and you could go the court system route. So I hope the best. I wish the best for all of you who did do assessment appeals. I know some of them, some of them I feel bad because we're set on rules and we're dictated on following a certain set of rules. And I feel bad for some of the people that came in and sat in that chair. Some of them were able to help. I think some of them we're just not, just because, they didn't make the case. And while I wish I could just turn around and give everybody tax breaks or assessment breaks, it's just not the way it is. So I think some people will be happy. Some people will be irritated. But just know that the board put in a lot of work. Tom and Sue, we put in a lot of work on this. So, budget makes that thing. And, that is another thing. Redistricting. Next Tuesday is redistricting. It's going to be interesting. I'm waiting to see how that turns out. We'll talk about that next week. And the final finance meeting is on Thursday. Thank you, Mr. Brunet. I'm just reading what he wrote here because if you're on YouTube or any other platform, you're probably not going to see his comment. So next Tuesday is redistricting, and final finance is on Thursday. Budget for City Council May 2nd at the moment. So if anything changes, I'm sure they will let us know. But with that said, we're going to move on. We have, obviously, we talk a lot of politics here now, and it looks like the 83rd has finally got a Democrat into it. So if you live in the 83rd, which is mostly a little nugget of the east side here, over to the west side and south of Meriden, into Berlin, and up to, and a little bit into Cheshire. If you've been following that, that is a race that has been very interesting. That has Lou Arata, who is running in that. I am set in that race currently. And now we have a Democrat who has thrown his hat in the ring. And I'm actually quite surprised. It's from Berlin. So, young guy at that, 27, seems like a pretty good guy from everything I've read up on him. And Jack, I already please forgive me if I mess up your name. But if you could, like I said, when I sent you this morning, I tried getting Jack on the show for tonight, but I don't know if he could make it or not. Jack Vollano, I'm taking this how it's pronounced. Fazzino, Vollano is how I'm taking it. He's a lawyer out of Berlin. He's actually also a current Democrat city councilman from the town of Berlin. A lawyer, nonetheless. I have my love-hate relationships with lawyers, just because they charge you an arm and a leg. But it's a pretty smart guy from what I've read so far. I went to Notre Dame, and then Georgetown, and then Boston College. So, I mean, you can't, 2 out of 3 schools I'll sit there and say I like. Georgetown University we'd have issues with. But again, he is running. He is 27. And again, we'll try to have him on the show. As everyone knows, anyone's welcome on the show, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, you're always welcome to be on the show. And you'll be given the same respect, no matter which side of the party, which side of the aisle you're on. So I look forward to hearing his views. I know the Berlin citizen reached out to me and asked me what I felt about him on joining the race. And as always, I say it all the time, the more people, the better. I like hearing a variety of opinions on matters. And as I told the Berlin citizen, I look forward to hearing his thoughts on the police accountability bill, critical race theory. I also talked about transgenders in sports, because that's gonna be a hot topic issue, whether it's the state union raises and bonuses, all sorts of things with it, whether it's in education, with teaching elementary kids about gender identifications and all that, and sex education. There's all sorts of things to talk about this election season that I think are going to be hot topic issues. So again, Jack is always welcome to join us on the show here and just introduce himself and get his name, let people know who he is and give him some information on how to find out more about him. And the only thing I do worry about, and the only thing I'm a little concerned about, is Millie has called him a strong candidate. And anyone I don't like most of the people that Millie puts up, but I will reserve my judgment until I meet him face to face. So, but Jack, welcome to the race. Again, it's always great to have opposing views. And listen, 95% of the things we're probably going to agree on. It's that 5 to 10% that is contentious, and that is what really separates Republicans from Democrats, conservatives from liberals. And that's truly the way it is. So again, I think we all want the same thing. It's no matter how do we get there is the question, and who is best to get us there in a productive, efficient, and cost-effective way. So again, we'll look forward to hearing from him on that. And again, if he's listening to the show, because I know I did message him earlier today, and I know I did send him the link, and I did send him all the information that I was looking for. So again, if he wants to call in, he's more than welcome to. I'll throw the number back up there for him or anyone in his staff that is watching it today. 203-679-9610. If you want to call in, 203-679-9610. As always, like I said, we've always treated everybody, no matter which side of the aisle you're on, with complete respect. And just as long as you don't try to BS the constituents, we are going to be good. So that goes for anybody that joins us on the show. That's one thing I will not let people do. You cannot BS and try to spin anything on this show. Give facts, give truth, and we'll let the chips fall where they may. So that's always been the rule here. So off of that, some good things going on in the city. The merit, and I love this because I saw this and I was like, because I am horrible at spelling. I'll be the first one to admit it. My English teacher in high school said, you know what, the best thing that's ever going to be in your favor is that spell check is on your computer. The Meriden citywide spelling bee returned to the city of Meriden after a 2-year hiatus. So, and let's see who won. Luke Pandiani won, a 6th grade student from Edison Middle School. Also happens to be Kim Pandiani's son, who is vice chair of the Board of Ed. Wonderful lady and wonderful kids. So congratulations to Luke on winning the spelling bee. And I believe the word was examination. Examination was the winning word. So we like examinations here on Straight Talk. So we like to examine what's going on out in the world. We like to examine what's going on in our city and what is behind most of the stuff that's going on in the politics today. So as I was just talking about, and one of the topics of discussion that we're going to have with other candidates is the state union raises and bonuses. I think this is a very unique thing because I look at this agreement not even agreement, this legislation that was just passed, and this gives more than 3,400 state employees a $3,500 bonus. And the problem that I'm having with it is that they're claiming that this is to retain workers. And it's broken down into two pieces. So it's broken down in, you could get the $2,500 first, and then, so let me make sure I have it right so I'm clear. I got it here in my fingers. It's $2,500. And then after July 1st, it could be another $1,000. So this is meant to retain workers, but yet they could grab the $2,500 and still run by July 1st. So how is this to retain workers? They're getting a 2.5% raise every year for the next 3 years. And they're getting $2,500 up front. And then after July 1st, they get $1,000. But this bill is to help to retain workers. And it's costing the taxpayers of the great state of Connecticut $1.9 billion over the next 4 years. $1.9 billion of your hard-earned tax money. These are the type of things that we are facing up in Hartford. And again, it's for no other reason than the fact that the unions are in bed with the Democrats. That's just the way it is. It's that simple. It's that simple. And the fact that now we had the former president of a union as our House Speaker until just recently. No, there is no stipulation. They could take the money before July 1st, $2,500, not the full $3,500. They could take $2,500 and run and be gone. So to say this is retaining workers is a joke. And again, this is nothing more than, again, exactly it, Alan. It's a payoff. This is typical election year politics. I said the same thing with the gas tax. I say the same thing with the gas tax. The gas tax was nothing more. This is nothing more than election year politics. Hey, Mr. Hansen, I tell you what, a lot of things should be privatized. Whatever you let the government take care of something, costs always go higher. Perfect example, paving our roads. Paving our roads. You tell me that it wouldn't be cheaper to have privatized fixing of our roads. Getting the Department of Transportation down to a minimal set of employees just set to oversee the projects. It costs the state of Connecticut tons more money per mile than any other state in the country. Why is that? Because of bureaucracy. That's why. That's why. It has been proven time and time again. When you take government out of something, it's more efficient, it's more productive, and it's more cost effective. Name something that privatization means low wages and profits to that company. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Perfect example of that would be Mohawk. Mohawk Construction is one of the leading construction companies in this state. And they are non-union. And those employees are extremely happy because they get paid a fair wage for the work they do. Yes, we do use private companies like Tilcon and stuff for major work. Yes. But again, the bureaucracy before it gets to them is what costs the state of Connecticut so much money. It's not the fact of doing the job. It's the administrative cost behind that is what drives up costs. And if I had time, I would have pulled it up because there's been a ton of studies that show where Connecticut ranks per mile of highway. And it's ridiculous. So what else is going to be coming up? Again, these are all topics we're going to talk more into depth in the coming months. Because again, these are going to be extremely important. It's going to be extremely important. And then one of them that's going to be coming up is obviously, the curriculum in our education system. If anyone's paying attention to what's going on down in Florida, what happened in Virginia, what's going on across this state, across this country. It's something we're going to have to keep an eye on here in Connecticut. Because some of this stuff started here. We talk about transgender in sports. Very concerning to me. It's very concerning to me. Because it started here. Connecticut was one of the first to allow transgenders who were going from boys to girls to play in sports, in girls' sports. Listen, every time I hear someone talk about this, I hear the same argument. Well, we can't discriminate. We're not. We're not discriminating here. We're not discriminating here. If you are a boy, if you're a male, you're playing in male sports. If you're female, you're playing in girls' sports. Just because you want to identify as a female and want to start going through that process does not take away the fact that you're still a male and you cannot play in women's sports. We need to protect women's sports. Now, again, this is going to be a hot, controversial issue going into these elections. And you know me, I have no problem tackling these things head on because I think the discussion needs to be had. These discussions need to be had. Whether we're talking about transgenders in sports, whether we're talking about critical race theory, whether we're talking about sexual education to elementary school students, whether we're talking about racial inequalities or anything. There is nothing off the table here on this show. And there's nothing off the table with me. You can ask me anything you want. That's what separates me from probably most. If they already transition, listen, they're still males. Or they're still females. Either one. If you want to go male to woman, either one, it doesn't matter. They still have the biology and the physical capabilities of a man or a woman. And we're not discriminating. We're not saying they can't play. If they want to play sports, they can still play. They can still play. They're just going to play in their biological side. I care about keeping the integrity of women's sports and making sure it's fair. Their hormones may be different, but their body structure is still the same. We're not discriminating. You could play. You just have to play in your biological side. It's that simple. It's that simple. At some point, we have to question ourselves and say, what is fair? Because is it fair to those young ladies who have sat there and put in the work and time? And look, this is playing out nationally too. Leah Thomas, she was what? 527 ranked of males, and then is number one as going up against females. Listen, statistics don't lie. I know people get emotional about this stuff. But at the end of the day, stats don't lie. And facts don't care about your feelings. These are conversations people don't want to have, but that they need to have. And we can't be afraid to have these conversations. We can't be afraid to have these conversations because they're important. And if you're a young lady competing and having to go against them, yeah. So again, this is a topic that's going to come up. And like I said, we also just talked about it. We talked about it briefly on sex education in elementary schools. Of course, they like to call it the "Don't Say Gay" bill. That's not what it is. It's protecting our elementary school kids. And I think someone put it perfectly well. Well, why don't you want them talking about da 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 da? Listen, little kids are impressionable. Bottom line. You're talking about 5 and 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds who still believe in the Easter Bunny, Santa Claus, Tooth Fairy. They're impressionable. That's why this is why the leftists want to teach it to them now. They want to get it to them as young as they possibly can. And without the parents knowing, the don't say gay bill, this has nothing to do with gay. It has to do with just keeping kids who are too young to even be thinking about this type of stuff. Protecting their innocence. Leave them alone. They want to go outside and play kickball and learn their numbers, learn how to read, learn how to do math. This is the kind of stuff you could teach in high school. But that's why I always say, I want education out of the federal government. I believe that the Department of Education should not even exist. I want education brought down to as much of a local level as possible. And while I have my disagreements with the Board of Ed here in the city of Meriden, I most certainly do not have an issue with them when it comes to the curriculum, to a certain extent, other than Common Core. I hate Common Core. The closer you get education to the local city and to the parents, the better. So it's the better. I believe the parents should have a say in everything. They want the parents out of everything. Listen, the government hates a concerned parent. Big government hates people who want control over their kids because they want control over your kids. Why would anyone want to be, trust me, I wouldn't want to be a teacher right now for multiple reasons. For multiple reasons. This not even being close to the first one. I think the kids of today are so disrespectful. That's why we have issues that we have. Absolutely, let children be children. Becoming a teacher, I gotta say, being a teacher is one of the toughest jobs you could possibly do, especially if you're in high school. It's tough. No one's denying that. And they should be given the tools they need to do a great job. Because I got to tell you, I could never do it. I throw some of these kids out a friggin' window. How disrespectful they are. I mean, I visit Joseph School every once in a while. I hear some of these kids like, what is going on here? But I also know there's a bunch of great students that are in this school system. Absolutely, parents need to parent. The school should teach. And again, I think we talked about it maybe like a month ago. I think a month ago we talked about it. We need to bring back financial education to the school systems. Home economics needs to be mandatory in the school system. But that's just, again, another topic that's going to come out. Of course, my favorite topic that's going to be of discussion this year, and something I'm going to be pushing very hard this year, is the police accountability bill. The police accountability bill, listen, it may have been passed, but this thing is far from over. And I have a stack of stuff that I want to talk about on the police accountability bill that we're going to actually dedicate a whole show to doing. Because I literally have probably like 8 or 9 different points I want to make on the police accountability bill that I want to see either adjusted or thrown out. Because some things are just left to interpret. I'll throw one out there. So, Police Officer Standards and Training Council. And this is the group that is able to take away someone police officers' certification if they don't like what they did. So I want to read to you one section here. Trust me, I have like 9 or 10 different other sections that have this. This is one that I don't like because it's so ambiguous. The holder has been found to have engaged in conduct that undermines the public confidence. Who gets to determine that? And what is it? There are so many things. That statement right there. Now, this council can take away a police officer certification because the holder has been found to have engaged in conduct that undermines the public confidence. What is that? That is so wide open for interpretation. It should have never been passed. That should have been stricken. That's one of the first things I want taken off the bill. Unless you're ready to define what kind of conduct undermines the public confidence, until you can specify that, that needs to go. Again, I am not at any time, going to make our great men and women in law enforcement worry about their job based on, again, a statement so vague. It could take away their job. And again, that's probably the least offensive ones that I find that are in this bill. One of my favorites, and this is something we've talked about a lot in the past, and I think we had a caller on this one. Implicit bias training. Now, if anyone doesn't know what implicit bias training is, we did talk about this months ago. And this is basically training. This is training your mind to not think things that you don't know you're thinking, if you followed that. So this is basically, if you, so one of the examples that they would say, because I'm white, I have a unconscious bias towards everybody else that is a different color or race. Now, I don't know how you train your brain not to think that way if it's actually happening, because you don't know it's happening. So how can you train your brain to do something that you don't even know it's doing? But this is mandatory training now. And let me just read what it says. Implicit bias training will be added to the cultural competency, sensitivity, and bias-free training that officers already receive under current law. Now, can I ask this question? The person who's actually running this program, don't they have an implicit bias towards cops or towards the public or towards anybody? So aren't they already putting their biases out there? Implicit bias training is about recognizing and mitigating unconscious bias against particular people that might influence judgments and decisions while interacting with them. That is absolutely maddening. It's crazy, and I can only imagine how much this course is costing the taxpayers. This is the most ridiculous training I've ever heard in my life. To try to teach your brain not to think of something when you don't even know you're thinking of it. It is just complete lunacy. And again, we could go on and on and on with it. Make sure I didn't leave anything else over there. Nope. And we'll save the rest of that for another show. So, again, this election is very important coming up. It's extremely important. And it's going to take everybody to get people elected. They're going to uphold common sense values. Because again, most of this is common sense. I think it's pretty common sense that you don't want a council that's going to be able to fire someone based on their interpretation of undermining public confidence. I don't think we want a lot of these civilian review boards that, again, some of them are investigative, like up in Hartford, of citizens that are going to be able to investigate and discipline police officers for doing their job, a job that they would have no idea about, and what it means to have to make a decision in a split second. Prime example, the state trooper that was just arrested for manslaughter. It's ridiculous. We have now made the criminal the victim, and the police officer the criminal. Even though this kid takes police on a friggin' joyride all over. But again, that's where our society is heading, where the police are now the bad guys and the criminals are the victims. It's got to stop. And we haven't even begun to talk about juveniles that are committing violent crimes, that are just being sent home. We have a lot of issues here that we need to tackle. And we're going to tackle each and every one of them. The police do a thankless job. It really is a thankless job now. Because the only time you hear about them now is when they're praising some kind of criminal. When the public and the politicians are blaming the police and not the criminal. We don't hear about, again, the trooper that put his car in the middle of the highway to stop a drunk driver or on whatever, on Route 9. These are the things they do to protect you and me on a daily basis. He knew he was going to get hit, and he put his car in the way so that he would hit his car and not somebody else. We talked about another one of those. Down in Florida. And in fact, I think I showed you the video of it. That is courage. That is the type of things we need to be honoring and thanking on a daily basis. Those are the heroes we should be. Those are the heroes that we should be promoting. We live in a crazy world. And Ray, give him our thanks and our appreciation. That's why this election is so important. It is. That's why this election is so, so important. It's important that we have people that are running out there, running for office, that are willing to speak the truth and fight back against, I'll say, bullshit like the police accountability bill. Now, everyone knows I'm running for the 83rd. And I wish that I was staying there. But there's certain things that are bigger than me. And I always tell everyone the first rule of politics is never, ever take politics personally. It is the fastest way for you to lose your mind, is to take politics personally. And I don't. I try not to. Maybe I have in the last couple months. Because I think that certain people just should never hold office. And that's just my opinion. But when looking at the bigger picture, there's things you're going to have to do that you might not want to do. But you do it for the betterment of the party. And you do it better for the betterment of the citizens of the people that you're going to represent. And I got to say, I wish Len Suzio would run for state senate. I really do. I think Len Suzio was a terrific state senator. No one had more enthusiasm, more knowledge of what was going on up there, and was willing to call them out on it. How he ever lost this seat is beyond me. And I wish he would run. But I met with him. I met with him and Elaine, the chairwoman of the MRTC. And Len Suzio told me straight out that he wasn't running. And that he wished that I would run in that seat. Now, how terrified I was when he said those words. And I left his house really thinking about what I want to do. And then I got to blame my son. When me and Joseph were talking about it. And he told me, he said, you got to do what's best for the people. What position do you feel like you could do more good for the people? And this coming from a 16-year-old. He said, you have to put things aside. And again, what I always tell people, don't let emotions get the better part of you, and don't let emotions dictate what you're doing. And he said, do what's best for the people, because the people need you. So I have terminated my campaign for the 83rd, and I have decided that I will run in the 13th. Now, again, I had my reservations. Obviously, my fundraising was done, so we had to start all over again, which kind of sucks. So we already had everything done. So it's going to be a lot to transition from the 83rd to the 13th. But listen, I got a great staff. I got great volunteers that are already behind the scenes working, getting all this stuff done. But it's a lot of work to go from a House seat to a Senate seat, dealing with 4 different towns. Is going to be a lot of work, and we're going to need everybody's help. If we believe that this is the right course, if we believe that what we do here on this show and what we do around, listen, we have to do this together. It takes a great, strong ground game to get this stuff done. No, I can't do it. I can't do it. You can't say you can do it. We have to do it. There's the word. Does anyone know what the worst word in politics is? Actually, there's 2. I and me. The 2 worst words in all of politics. I hate hearing them. Because there is nothing that I or me can do. We can accomplish anything. We can accomplish anything we want when we work together. I cannot accomplish anything by myself, especially in this kind of race. So we're going to need everybody's help, because we got to do 2 things right off the bat. One, we need to get 300 signatures. And we need to raise $17,000. Well, $17,800. So we have a lot of work to do. And again, it's going to take all of us to do it. I'm willing to put the time, the effort in. Anyone who knows, when I run a campaign, it's 110% full throttle all the time. This is not going to be your normal campaign. This is going to be an enthusiastic. This is going to be an enthusiastic campaign. So the money is, good questions. So the money is going to be reimbursed back to the people that gave it to me. And then they're going to have to fill out another form and contribute once again. So yeah, it's a lot of work. That's why I said it's a lot of work. So if you donated to the campaign already, you're going to get a check back. And then I'm going to ask you to resubmit your contribution along with a new form. Like I said, it's a pain in the ass, especially with how much we have to do, because we were done. But those around me who believe this is the right move, like I said, I was hesitant to do it because I understand what goes with this. But with the strong group that we have, I have no doubt we'll succeed. No doubt. So Hanson, you can write a check out. Vollano for Senate 2022. You go ahead and write that check out for me for $290, sir. That's the max you can contribute. So I'll look for that check. Yes, your husband has signed another check, and tell him I apologize. But that's where we're at. I look forward to a great campaign. Again, I thank Mr. Suzio for his vote of confidence and suggesting that we do this. That means a lot coming from him, who I know has a lot of dedication to and love for this city. So, again, I thank you all. We'll talk about this more next week, where we're at and what we got going on. But it's gonna be a fun time. It's gonna be an exciting time. Like I said, we're gonna bring some energy back to the 13th. We're gonna bring that Suzio energy, and we're gonna knock it up, and we're gonna kick it up a notch. I'm already getting my suit jackets out. I'm already getting my sport jackets out. I just picked up a new one. It's really nice. So it's nice and cool for the nice walks. So we'll go from there. But until then, guys, as always, it is an absolute pleasure and honor to be here before each and every one of you every week. Bow ties will be back. Yes. Bow ties will be back, and some nice sport coats, which the bow tie, yes, and the sports jackets. Wait till you see some of the new ones I just picked up. They are pretty awesome. So I tell you what, if nothing else, you're going to remember who I am. So you may sit there and say, he's a son of a you know what, but you're going to be like, that jacket was pretty cool though. So until then, guys, I love each and every one of you. And as always, take care of yourself and each other. I love you. God bless you. And as always, God bless this amazing country of ours. There is no place like it on earth. Love you guys, and good night.
And a million faces formed together, made for elevation. And the soldier won't surrender. Faith is like a fire that never bursts to embers. The voice of the unheard. Love is the answer.
I gotta speak it, believe it, that's how I feel inside.
I can't sit here quiet.
You can take my heart, you can take my breath when you pry it from my cold dead chest.
This can't resist us. Can you hear me? Are you listening, sleeping? And the shadows could be making you